Noon. Today is November 2nd.
Dee, am I already sharing my screen? I was just testing
You are.
it. Okay, let me
This is the
stop for now.
Cbo Technical Assistance call, and we've got a huge agenda today, so we're going to get rolling right away. I'm going to have Tammy do her first thing, but before Tammy pulls her screen over and starts talking, I want to make sure that everybody is checked in and that you have had an opportunity to download any of the documents. We also have a poll question. You'll have another chance to answer that in a few minutes, but I just want you to be aware of what's going on. I see Tammy getting herself pulled together here, so I won't pull her screen over until she's ready to go.
You have the right thing. I need two monitors. I just have this. I'm still in the life of one monitor.
You're still in the dark ages?
I am. So when I'm on my screen, I can't see anything. I feel so blind.
Well, you know, there's times where I have two laptops and my two monitors up. So that's a busy day. All right, looks like you're ready to go, so I'm going to pull your screen over and make it bigger.
Sounds good.
We're going to be talking about performance.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. You know, in our grant agreement with EPIC, it is a performance-based contract, and we've been playing around and toying of, you know, how do we do this on the CBO side when you guys have no control of your enrolled numbers? And once again, this program was modeled after JTED, and it had a very specific performance-based logic to it. So this is in our grant agreement, and this is a logic that we came up with, and this is a spreadsheet that you guys can use to determine where you're at based upon your performance. And just to start out, this is a much friendlier payout than even the JTED model was, you know, especially on the front side for you guys. So I'm just going to walk through this form. I mean, the first thing is obviously, you know, you just put your name in, your number in, who it's prepared by, you know, email contacts, and then actual funds expended on the trial balance. You know, this document was originally the front part of your DGR report that you guys used to submit. It has been removed from that now. The DGR report, and I haven't gone through all of them yet, and I will be, but the DGR, the report that you guys just submitted, the way I requested that was just that you put your grantee information in the very beginning and sign it by the authorized signature and send in the trial balance. You didn't have to complete anything else. But this used to be the front part of that. Now you can just use this tool to kind of track where you're at with your costs and also with your performance. So actual funds expended on your trial balance. When you look at your trial balance, you know, let's just say you have, you know, $35,000 that you've expended on your trial balance. And actual funds remaining on hand. So this would be cash that you have received that hasn't been obligated. And once again, I'm just going to put just $5,000 in here just as an example. So the way that you're going to use this tool is you have to go into your grant agreement and you have to look at what your negotiated performance measures were. So this is based upon if you receive the entire funding. We put these grants out at 50% because, like we said, the money is going to follow the clients. So your initial grants were established at 50% of your requested funds. But for this part of it, you're going to put in your requested funds and the performance measures that were identified. So I'm just going to throw in some numbers. So I'm going to say that there's 45 that intended to be enrolled, say that was negotiated at 39 that completed, 30 that were employed, and 26 that were retained for 90 to 150 days. So we put those numbers in there, and then the grant amount for this, I'm just going to say it's $250,000 grant, which gives us an average cost of $5,556 per client. So what we're using is your average cost as the driving factor in determining this performance. Now this document, let me walk through it. It's kind of confusing, and it still gets confusing for me to explain. But anything in yellow is what you fill out. So say in the first quarter you had let's just say 7 people enrolled, and in this quarter you had 10 individuals enrolled. So that's a total of 17, and everything else is calculated with you. So since you are not really in control of your enrollments, that first line is gives you a 17, and the performance to be total that's unearned at this time is 0. So the top line, your enrollment line, is driven by your actual performance. So taking a look at this, we took the percentages of your drop-off rate here. So from your enrolled to complete, your enrolled to employed, and enrolled to retained, we attributed a drop-off rate for that. And in our grant agreements, we asked you to be pretty aggressive. We wanted to see a 60% employment rate, which is aggressive, for this population, and we understand that. And we are going to, evaluate this whole performance logic as we're moving along too, and we do have some latitude as we're moving with this. But we wanted to be aggressive, and so we had asked that you plan for a 60% employment rate with these clients. So basically what we did on this, though, is we took the percentage of drop-off and attributed that to your enrollment rate. So if this grant right now stopped at 17 people, and that's all you served, you would have to serve 15 to complete your measures. For the completion, you'd have 15 you need to serve, 11 and 10 in your retention numbers. So with that enrollment rate of 17, the total funds available based upon your enrollment would be $94,445. So if you stopped right now, you enrolled nobody else, that would be the total amount that would be available based upon the enrollments for your grant. Now, based upon having 7 and 10 enrolled, then you're looking at $40,000 that would be allowable expenditures that you could expend for this grant. I'm going to go into this a little deeper, in just a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and put some more numbers in here. So we say we have 3 and 5 and 2 and 3, and then maybe 1 here. So as you're moving along, you're going to see it's the final column is the performance total that is unearned at this point. So what we're saying is based upon the numbers that you've got in here, that you still have $11,669 that you can earn from the completion measure. You still have $10,000 you can earn from the employment measure, and you still have $9,900 that you can earn from your retention measure. So once you complete all of your measures, let's just add, let's make this 13. And 13 actually you're over, so you can't earn any more than what's in that specific measure. But so here is 12 here. So at this point at 12, you've completed your objective, and so there's no more available in that measure to earn because you've completed your objective for that one. So this is the way this form works. What the intention is to give you a guideline of what could potentially be available to you. So at this point, based upon these measures down here, there is availability of $74,451 that you can expend in this program because you've earned that through these measures. Now, let me be very specific. There is no income. There is no actual earnings in this grant, which means that you can't, you're not going to earn income on this. You're not going to earn income on this grant. You have to have expenditures that equates to that. So in your performance, you may have had $74,000, and if we close the grant right now, we're shutting this down, you may have been able to charge $74,451 to the grant. But if your true cost to this grant are $50,000, then that's all you can recoup from this grant. So you have to document actual cost to this grant too. So there is no revenue that you're earning from this. It's based upon actual expenditures is what you can charge to this grant. The thing you want to make sure is that you're aligning your earnings, because it is performance-based, you're aligning your performance with your actual expenditures. So, even if it shows on this document that I've got $74,000 that's available allowable expenditures, but I've only expended $50,000, that's all I can charge off to this grant. So I hope that makes sense. It's a little confusing.
Candy, we have a couple of questions.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Carmen's asking, how will clients who were referred but never attended anything impact our overall numbers? Will they count against us, or will the total number of clients be determined only by those who have actually communicated with us?
It's going to be determined by those that are enrolled in your program. So if you have not enrolled them in your program, if they have to first of all show up. So if you have an appointment with somebody and they just don't even show up, at that point they're sent back to DHS for conciliation, so they're not enrolled in your program. And then we will be going over, we probably can't fit it in today, but we'll fit it in the next time. We can go over the report formats that are being established in WorkNet. So out of WorkNet, you're going to be able to get a report on these numbers down here, how many enrolled, how many complete, how many employed, and how many retained. So yeah, they have to actually be enrolled, and you have to be offering them services in your program for that to be able to count.
All right, and then Nancy Brown is asking, so if we do better than projected, we are not compensated for that?
Not compensated for that specific measure, no. You cap out at your measures. The thing is, as this grows, so an example would be here. Okay, let's say that down on this one you have 15. Okay, and that shows a negative right there, but it's based upon 17 enrolled. So now the next quarter I've got 25 enrolled. So that 25 adjusts this number down here. Now, this document adjusts. It's a living document. It's adjusting every time somebody else comes in the program. So these numbers on this side over here are based upon your drop-off rate, your fallout rate, which is up here. So on this, in the yellow section, this top part up here, you have to look at your grant agreement, and you have to put in the numbers that are in your grant agreement that we've obligated to for services for this grant. And then your total grant amount is not the grants that you got this time. It's not the 50%, it's the 100% grant amount. That's in your grant agreement too. The grant was established at 50%, but we're anticipating everybody will be moved up to that 100% level as the referrals come through. So the thing that's driving this is the average cost per participant. The average cost per participant that's identified in the grant agreement is what drives this document, and then the fallout rate. So every time you change this down here, your projections on the performance side will change also.
We have another question. Eric asks, does completed training include only successful completions, or does it also include unsuccessful completions?
It would not include unsuccessful completions because they didn't complete training. There wasn't a completion. It was unsuccessful.
So that means they've got to get them through.
Yes. Yes. They have to get them through your program design of training. Exactly.
Okay.
So, and this is, it is more lucrative. But the thing is with this, it is more lucrative than the JTED on the front end because you guys don't control the intake process, for one. And the other thing is you guys have true costs. You have supportive services, which is a real cost that you're seeing. If you're working with training providers and you're paying tuition, that's a real cost to your organization. If you're doing work experience, that's a real cost to your organization. So you need to be compensated for your real cost. But we also want to have it to be a win-win where we're holding you to performance too. So we don't want to put you in a position where this grant's going to hurt you. But we want to put you in a position where this grant is going to drive you to make sure that you're meeting your outcomes of this too. So it's, like I said, it's a fairer process than the JTED one because it's weighted more on the enrollment side. But at the same token, you have to have those costs to support actually getting those earnings, getting that allowable expenditure. So the funds available based upon performance is just that. It's funds that are available based upon your performance. Now, your true costs have to reflect, and be charged to this grant as they're incurred, and that's what you're reporting in the GRS, to us on a monthly basis, your costs and your cash request. And then the other thing too is when you're doing a cash request, what I've been looking at predominantly has been your costs compared to your cash request because we're on a reimbursement basis now. We're also going to start looking at performance because we're getting more referrals. We haven't really, tied the performance yet to your cash request, but that's going to come here now soon. That we want to make sure that we're not giving you too much cash in the field and you're not spending it, and then all of a sudden you're going to have disallowed costs because you didn't get the number of referrals that were anticipated. But like I said, with the referral process is kicking in more. I know there's more people getting clients in the door, and our goal is that everybody accomplishes what we have in our grant agreements with you guys, and we exit this program with some amazing successes that then can be modeled on a national level of how we're doing this.
Carmen asks, and for some reason my chat button pod thing isn't working well, but Carmen asks, how is training completion defined?
Training completion it's defined by each specific CBO, because everybody's training programs are different. And what we can do is work on an individual basis with you guys on that definition. But there isn't like a standard definition, because each of the programs are different, and it's based upon your program design.
But in effect, they've completed, or they've gained the certificate, basically, for the program in which they were enrolled.
Right.
Yeah. So if your program is 4 components, they might have successful completion for one of the components, but not the other 3.
Yeah, it's possible.
And then what should next steps be when a customer drops out of a training program? Are those funds wasted?
You still get the enrollment. So you will still get the benefit of the enrollment. You won't necessarily get the benefit of completion. And there's going to be instances where they're enrolled. They may not necessarily complete the program, but you're able to get them employed. So you can gain that employment benchmark and then retention benchmark also. So I mean, there's going to be a lot of different scenarios, and that's, like I said, with you guys too. This is something else we're testing, is what makes sense for a good performance-based contract. So, I want your feedback on this too, if what you think is working and what's not working. I've worked with one agency, and it's not. I don't think this methodology is going to hurt you guys, but we want to make sure that it's beneficial to the program and to the clients also. So this is a negotiation that we can talk about too. If we're getting into this, and plus if you see anything, I don't think I've vetted the spreadsheet with several people, but if you find something wrong with it, please let me know. But this is something that we're going to be talking about with this EPIC program too. Does this make sense as a performance-based contract, or is there some other options that we can look at also?
Carmen also asks, we have people who can't commit to full training and are doing job search only. There's still training involved, it's just not the vocational training. Does that mean that those who are enrolled in job search only, even if they get employed, count against us?
No, they won't count against you. You're still going to get your enrolled and your employed and retention benchmark. So those won't count against you.
So, okay, so then I guess my question would be, since I'm not a CBO, do they get to submit any funds that they expend, like to a community college, as an expense?
Yeah, those would be an expense that they would document on their accounting systems, and then that would be costs that they put into the GRS system.
So then what we're talking about here is the incentive for completion of those 4 components. It's not, they're not actually then wasting their training dollars on the person who can't finish the training. That's actually an expense that they can submit. They just don't get the benefit of enrolled completed. They don't get the benefit of the completion performance.
Right.
benefit.
And with this specific formula, I mean, just about 50% of the grant is weighted really on enrolled. I mean, so there is, funds that, it's user friendly for the CBOs the way this is set up, because like I said, once again, we want to make sure that we're not putting the CBOs in jeopardy. We're they are spending money and they're not getting reimbursed, because they're real costs to the program. But like I said, we have to be a happy medium between the two, between making sure that the CBOs are getting their real costs back, but the efforts on getting the clients motivated and staying in the program, and jobs and retention services after that. because that's what's going to drive for future policy and future program design. Is there's a lot of things we've implemented with Epic that are not normal in the DHS environment, and a lot of things that I think will transcend. I hope will transcend. But for us to really be able to be a model program, we have to show outcomes and successful outcomes, because that's the intent, is moving clients to sustainability.
All right. So Eric has a couple of things here. I'm just going to read all the way through. Completing training does not mean program exit. So if they complete a training program, that would count as a completion. Let me offer an example. If the OSHA 10 is built into our training program, it just moved on me. This is a certification. Should the client complete the OSHA 10, then this would count as a completed training.
From what I'm reading here, the OSHA 10 is a component of your training program. So that when you put them as completed, you've offered your training program services to them, and they are ready for employment. So an OSHA 10 would be one of the steps within your training program. And what's going to happen is the sanction, we are going to get paid. These participants came a couple of times. If somebody is going through sanctions, you need to, first and foremost, stop services to them. So if you've sent them back to DHS for sanctions, then you're not providing any additional services to them. If you've enrolled them, you're going to get that benefit of enrolling them. And it depends on, obviously, when that sanctions happen. So if they completed your training program as defined in your scope of work, you can get that measure. And then if they drop off, and you're trying to place them and they're not being, compliant, then that would be back to DHS for sanctioning. So it just depends upon at what point that they are sent for sanctioning and what you get.
And then Carmen says, so she's back to the person with the training. They don't count against you, they just don't count for you. And then Judith says, I have a person who would like to add forklift certification to his training to make him more valuable to the potential employer. Will Epic pay for this one-day $100 training?
Yeah, as long as it's in your program design, it can be paid for out of Epic.
So Eric is responding, so it's a program exit.
Yes.
Back to his question about the OSHA.
Yes. Yes, and they're building in the reports now. I'm not sure if Natasha's on. And in 2 weeks, we're going to have a gentleman from ICCB that's going to talk about developing career pathways. But if we have time after that, then we can definitely show you the reporting functions. And if need be, we can do a webinar next week also, if you guys want to go over the reporting functions and how that's going to look.
And successful completion doesn't equate to the program exit because we still have the 90-day job placement review or the job retention. So they don't actually exit the program until after their 90-day retention.
90-day retention
at a job is completed.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
So Judith is saying that the forklift training is not part of their training program.
Okay, Judy, give me a buzz related to that.
After the webinar.
Yeah. And we can, one of the things, because we've had somebody in one of the agencies that the client wanted something that they weren't necessarily offering. Our scope of work, if you're finding a specific demand that you're getting and it's not, identified in your scope of work, give me a call. Because we can always modify your scope of work to add components if you feel that that's going to be beneficial to your program and to the clients you're serving.
And Eric says, but it would be an exit in WorkNet, correct? Are you talking regular WorkNet with WIA dollars, or are you talking about Epic, Eric? All right, you do not exit the customer in Epic until after the 90-day retention at a job. They're still an active participant until after the 90-day retention is done. Okay. Nancy's typing, so I'm going to wait for that. Tammy, did you need to share your screen for the time use survey?
And I don't necessarily need to do that. Everybody received an email from this Emily Snook, who's with the Mathematica Policy and Research. And since our programs are pretty staff heavy, they wanted to do basically a time use survey, and it's pretty straightforward, the survey is. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. This is going to be something that they're going to have done once a year, and it's just an approximation of your staffing time with the clients. So, like I said, the main thing I just wanted to do is make you guys aware. We had somebody ask if this was junk mail that they got, and it's not. If you received this from Emily, this is something that you need to get back to her. And please try and get it back to her on the date that she wanted it returned. I don't have her email up here right now. But please try and get that information, back to her by the date that she was requesting it. Once again, hopefully it's not going to be a, huge, effort or time effort on you guys' part to do this. But this is just part of what's going to be required for the study side of it, because they're trying to get to the true cost of what it is to operate this program.
And Nancy Brown is asking if the client goes through the program, takes the sanitation test, or any of the tests actually, but does not pass the test, can we get reimbursed for the test as an expense? If this person still gets a job, how do I count that? So I'm hearing two different things here, Tammy, and I think we need to clarify it for everybody. Costs associated with training people are expenses. Is that correct?
Yes. You can expense out any of your costs that are related to this contract. Need to be identified and put into, obviously, your accounting system, and then also they need to go into the GRS, GRS, our grantee reporting system, and aligned with our line items within the GRS. So those are true costs to your organization. Now, your performance side of it.
The performance is different, and the performance is what you were just talking about. Yeah,
the performance is basically your earnings based upon your performance. So, I mean, it is what it is. With the J10 model, it's based upon you negotiated these specific performance measures. If you accomplish all those measures, then you receive, all of your grant funds, that was obligated. And the driving factor is to try and make your performance good. I mean, you want to have your performance that's in your contracts. You want to meet all of those measures, because if you meet all those measures, then you're going to get 100% of your funding. There is a fall-off rate. So the average cost is, if you look at completions, the average cost is a lot higher because of the fallout rate, when we're dealing with clients. But it all kind of levels out. You're going to have clients that are not going to do well, and then you're going to have some that are going to do really well. And that's just part of this environment that we're living with this program. I mean, you're going to have clients that are going to drop off, and so the performance calculation takes into consideration your fallout rate.
Great. I think there was just some miscommunication or misunderstanding there. I just wanted to get that clarified for everybody.
Yes. True cost to this grant, actual cost to this grant needs to be identified and put into the GRS system. And, right now your actual cost probably does exceed your performance of what's been earned through performance. But as we move down through this process, and as you get more clients and you start doing more completions and more placements and retentions, then that starts to come in line with it too. We just don't want to see there are huge discrepancies between actual cost and performance, because we don't want you guys to be in a position where you've spent out all of your grant and then you don't have any performance to show for that.
And thank you, Judith, for putting Emily Snook's email address in there. That's the email that you need to look for so that you can answer the time use survey that Tammy was talking about. So, Olivia, do you want to share your screen so that we can talk about the dashboard.
Yeah.
And one other topic I wanted to mention, we've been looking, it doesn't appear that a lot of you have been entering data on work experience, paid work experience. If you are doing paid work experience, please, and we can go over this in another webinar too, please make sure that you're putting your employers in there and you're uploading payroll. Because that's the other thing that we're going to be checking is your payroll compared to what's in the GRS. So if you're reporting cost under paid work experience and there's nothing in WorkNet, then we need to reconcile that. We're going to be calling you and saying, okay, you don't show anything as far as payroll uploads in the WorkNet system, and you're reporting cost in that. So we should be getting to the point where we're doing paid work experience for these clients, and we need to make sure that we're documenting that. Just like the summer youth program. Whoever had the summer youth program, it's real similar to that same process.
All right. Do you want to magnify your screen a little bit, Olivia?
Yeah.
And then Mary,
Alrighty.
wait, while she's doing that, Mary asks, once we've completed a cash request, how long will it take to be paid?
And it should be, I put around 8 to 10 days, probably, something like that. If you have the direct deposit, it may be just maybe 5 days. And I strongly encourage everybody to have this direct deposit. And I think we do have a few that may still be receiving checks. If you need to go to the comptroller's website and actually set up a direct deposit options. And I'll see if I can find some information on that and share with you guys on that. And actually, I'm going to jump into my emails real quick and see if I can find the information on that. But I do set up direct deposits.
Cool. All right. Olivia, you're up.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to go over the enrolled dashboard with you guys really quick and just cover some areas where maybe we have a couple customers starting to accumulate that we don't need them accumulating in. So the first area is referral pending needs 2151. We have 19 customers who were scheduled for an appointment with their CBO. And a 2151 was never uploaded after that appointment date went by. Even if the customer doesn't attend, we still need to be uploading that 2151 showing that there was no contact from the customer, that they did not show up, or we need to be rescheduling them for another appointment date. The second one is referral pending 2151 past due. That means that 48 hours have went by and a 2151 still hasn't been uploaded for that customer. So same situation as above. We just need to make sure that we're uploading that 2151 within 48 hours of that appointment date or rescheduling them for a new appointment. If they call and they need to reschedule for a later date, that's fine. We can reschedule them. But if they just don't show up, we need to be uploading the 2151 with no contact from client. And then if they do show up and maybe they still have some more things they need to go through, we can upload that 2151 with the assessment box checked. And then once we have officially accepted the customer into the location, they'll upload that 2151 with client services initiated. The next area that we have some customers building up in is the referral accepted and enrollment started, enrollment required. This means that their 2151 has been uploaded with client services initiated, but they haven't been enrolled into the training program yet. You do that on their progress page where you go down and you select enrolled and then you select the training program that they're going to be participating in. And the next area on the dashboard is the CBO needs to upload past due. This is referring to the 2151A form. It is required that we upload that between the 1st and 5th of every month. The numbers are really, really high because it is the 2nd. So we need to make sure that we're focusing on that this week and getting everybody's 2151A uploaded, reflecting the previous month's progress. So hopefully next time we come in to do a webinar, this will be 0 or a lot less than 305. And then the other area we need to keep an eye on is exited status, completion documentation needs uploaded. So we have 3 customers that have been marked as exited, but they're still missing some form of documentation. If you go to the exit status section on the progress page and open that up in red text, it will tell you which documentation is missing. That way you can get that completed, and then they will move to the appropriate section of the dashboard depending on what their completion status is. So those are the areas on the enrolled dashboard. Do you guys have any questions on those? I don't see anybody typing.
No, I don't. Do you want to? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So the next dashboard is the Istep Dashboard. I just wanted to go over a couple things in here. So for the Istep Dashboard, we need to make sure that we're selecting the target occupation for every customer that comes through our doors. So right now we have 264 customers who have been assigned with a CBO and they don't have a target occupation selected. We need to be going into their Istep and selecting their target occupation based off the application. On the application, you can find what their target occupation is. And we also need to be uploading steps as we go. So there's 176 people who have no career planning steps identified. There might be a couple people in this section, maybe when they first come in, they don't quite have a career planning thing thought out and set in stone, but there should only be a few. Every customer should have some kind of career planning steps they're working towards. And the same with the academic and technical training. We have 236 customers who don't have any academic steps selected, and all of our customers should have some kind of academic or technical training steps selected because they are in EPIC, and that is what we're doing in EPIC. And then, yeah, and so that's all for the Istep. I saw a couple people typing.
Eric wants to know what the status is on adding community service as a personal development step. And I thought we had that added, but I don't know for sure. And checking in test won't do me any good. So we'll have to check on that, Eric, and get back to you guys with an email about that.
I'll make a note of it right now.
I'm typing it in my notes up here.
And then I saw somebody raise their hand. Autumn, did you have a question?
And Kelsey, I just wrote that note down too. Job search only customers may not have academic steps, so we have to check into that. So I'm going to talk to folks about that. We can add the community service option as a personal development step. We can get that done. So we'll make a note of that and try to have that up by Friday. I'm not going to promise tomorrow, but we'll try to have that up by Friday.
And just so everybody knows, I will be going through the Istep really in depth here soon. So I'm going to be calling and reaching out to a lot of CBOs who maybe don't have any steps for a majority of their customers or something like that. So be prepared for my phone call. It shouldn't take long, just kind of go through the basics of how it all works, but I just really want to make sure that we're getting everything in for these customers that we need.
And Eric, do you think that community service would be a personal development step and not a career planning step? Because sometimes doing community service work gets you some workplace skills. All right. I see. Yeah, I would agree with your comment there about them being both. Okay. Are you done with the dashboard, Olivia?
Yeah, I was going to see if you wanted me to go ahead and go over reports.
I think so.
Or the report. Okay. So we have a new report out. It's called the Cbo Benchmark Report. The report page might look a little bit different. We went in and added descriptions about what all the reports are. And you guys won't see this many reports, but you will see the Cbo Benchmark Report. And what this is for the whole state, so yours will only be showing you the numbers for your location. But this will show you the number of customers you have enrolled in training and the number you have enrolled in employment services only, the number of customers you have employed, and the number of customers that are in retention, in the retention stage. And so you just click on these lists of customers and it will bring up the whole list of customers that are either enrolled in training or employment services, whichever one you click on. So this should help you guys kind of see where all your customers are at in one easy glance. Do you guys have any questions about the Cbo Benchmark Report?
I think Eric is typing to answer my question.
I think so too.
All right. I think, Eric, I think it would depend on how the customer is using it. When I teach LinkedIn workshops, I always suggest to people that they do volunteer work to enhance their skills. And in that case, it would be a career planning step. But I can see your point about it being a personal development. So I agree. It may depend upon the nature of the work. So you're going to probably pick. So, but I think I'll talk to Natasha and Olivia and see about adding it to both spots. All right. I don't see anybody typing anything about your benchmark report, Olivia, so I'm going to minimize your screen. And what we want to do now is talk about, we got a little out of order here, this poll question about optimal resume. I'm going to pull this up here a little bit and expand this. One of the things in the past, I've done a number of webinars that are available on Illinois WorkNet YouTube channel and on Illinois WorkNet main web page about optimal resume. And it is a phenomenal tool. If you're using Winway, you will just be blown away by the tools that are available and in optimal resume. So you need to check it out. One of the things that I'm going to show you right now is how the customers can use this, and then you can see what's going on. So if you could, and you are on the webinar, please tell us right now in this poll question what you are actually using for resumes for your customers. Please answer this before I pull over and up my screen and take up all of the screen. And all you have to do is type your answer in with where you go. Oh yes, I actually created some resumes to add as templates in Optimal. So that's a very good thing to use. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to pull this down, and right now I logged in as a customer and I went to Optimal Resume. Now I'm not going to show you everything that's available as examples for this, but what I am going to show you are what the components are that are available. You can create a resume from a template, and there are, I don't even know how many templates there are. But what I did was I went in and I picked a job title a level of experience, and I picked a template, and it gives me something that I can work from. So then I can go in and edit the information in here. It will save it. It gives you resume tips. You can change the style. You can change the format. You can move the sections around. So if I want to move my skills above my summary, all I have to do is take it and move the sections. It's just a wonderful tool. So here I was doing it wrong. I was thinking I was in LinkedIn and I could just click and drag, but so now I just moved the skills to the top, and you can have, it gives you ideas for action verbs. It gives you ideas for what to write in here. So it's just a phenomenal tool. I cannot sing the praises of this well enough. And then if you go back to the Document Center, it gives you a multitude of letters that you can write. And here, what you can use is, in here, I'm almost positive that there is, Carmen, an ATS webinar resource to make these resumes ATS friendly. Then you can also create portfolios, which is where you might want to store pictures or examples or other documents that the customers have created. You can do an assessment. You can do practice interviews with a webcam. You can create a video resume, and you can create a mini website where you can store all of these different components. One of the things that I do want to show you is in this excuse me, assessment area, it brings up, based on the job that you enter as your primary job, you can add components about where you gained skills and examples of those skills. So I just wrote some basic things in here, but if I wanted to say that on a job or an internship, I used, come back up here, I used critical thinking skills while managing the EPIC project for DHS and Commerce. So I could say that, I could expand upon it with an example, but which is what's preferable. I'm just doing this to give you a basic example. So then once you have all of these items entered in here, it gives you a great tickler file for what a customer could use in a interview, because you could have this all printed out and the interviewer asks you a question, well, have you used your critical thinking skills before? And you just go to your little sheet and you say, well, I did blah, 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 because you have it written down in this document. Now, once you have all of these things created, then on the customer's profile, we have a new tab over here called Optimal Resume. This links with the customer's profile based upon the email address that is in the customer's profile. So as you are looking at this, one of the things that we're asking the CBOs to do is, if the customer does not have an email address, we're asking you to help them create one. And then you would update their profile in EPIC so that it would then sync with whatever they're doing on Illinois WorkNet. We have the Assessments tab, so where if they take the NOCTI or if they do any of the other assessments that are associated with Illinois WorkNet, those all show up here. But now, if I click on this Optimal Resume, when I made those updates to the assessment piece, and my computer is taking a while to think here, then it would also update in my section on that I can view as the CBO on the customer's profile. We can't make changes Oh, Kelsey's saying we can't update a customer's general information once they have been enrolled. Okay. You would then send us that information, and we can make those changes for you. I'm going to make a note. Olivia, can you make a note in the notepad on the presenter side about allowing CBOs to change name or email address?
They should be able to do that.
On the profile? We'll have to go in
Yeah.
and test that, log in and test that as a CBO. Okay, so then what I can look at is I can look at on the first draft of the resume, I can go to view it from the web page. Kelsey's saying nope. I can view it from the web page. I can print it using RTF. I forgot what RTF stands for, but it's ready text format. Is that what it stands for? Or I can print using a PDF, or I can share it. Then the other thing that I can do is I can go back and I can look at the assessments from a web page and see what they've entered into those different boxes. This is a great tool for you to be able to use to see, okay, Johnny, let's take a look at what you put in your critical thinking option. Maybe we can work on the wording for that. So that's where, thank you, Margaret, rich text format. So that's where you can help them understand how they can use this tool better. If there were other components that I had already entered, then you would see those other components here. So this is a great tool. So let's, I happen to be logged in as a super admin, but just to show Kelsey where you can go, you go to the person's profile, go to the profile details, and you can enter a new password, and you should be able to change their first name and email address. So that's where you can do that. I don't know about the phone number. Natasha, do you want to weigh in on the phone number for that? We may have to do that in the database across the state database. All right. Do we have any other questions about the optimal resume? I could spend a whole hour just talking about the optimal resume tools, but if you have any specific questions about how this works, then...
Dee and I can also show them really quickly how they can change their basic information of the customer's name.
Okay. Are you going to log in as a CBO?
Yep, I'm logged in as a CBO and I'm on test and ready to go.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and pull you over and do that real quickly while we're here. Okay, I can't grab your screen. There we go. Okay. So as a CBO.
So I'm logged in as the CBO. So I just click on the customer that I want to update their information, and I go to their profile tab, and then it automatically will go to their application information. So you just want to click on profile details tab. And this is where you can update the customer's password if they forget their password. And then if you scroll all the way down, you can update their last name, or their first name, their last name, and their email, and then you just click update, and then it'll update on their profile.
But we can't click on the application information. Is that locked? Yes, it is. Okay, that's locked.
Yeah.
So under the show more contact information, in the left-hand column, show more contact information just below their last name there. We can't make any edits there either. So perhaps we could add, let's talk about adding address and phone number information changes in there.
Sounds good.
All right, so we'll make a note and talk to Natasha and the programmers about making those changes. All right. Okay, so next thing that we want to talk about is just to refresh your memory about uploading and reviewing payroll and worksite placement. We will be putting out a video about this, but right now we want to make sure that everything is done and in place before we do the videos, the training videos. So under resources, you would click on agencies and go to your agency. So I'm going to go to Catholic Charities. And under payroll, this is where you would add payroll for your customers. Click on the payroll, and you would click on the drop-down arrow by Add Payroll. You would enter a payroll start date, and I'm going to go to the previous month, and I'm going to do from the 16th through the 31st of October. I'm going to download the payroll template. That then will pull up into my computer program, and you're seeing another document that's not that. So then I can go in and enter hours worked. So maybe it was 25 for this customer and 20, whoops, at an hourly wage of $13. And then hours worked here was 20, and their wage stayed the same. So then I would close this, save it, and then I would upload the payroll template, and that is in my download file. I'm going to look for Catholic Charities Payroll, open that, and then I upload. And I see that it's 2 customers, $545. Payroll has no errors. View payroll records. I can upload any expenditures at the time that I entered this, so that if I have that $100 test for the food sanitation, I can upload those expenses. Once I'm done, I can submit payroll and expenditure forms for review. So I submit this. It shows up in my list below where it either has been not submitted or not reviewed. Then when Tammy does the review, or when her assistant does the review, then you would see been reviewed. Now, we don't upload timesheets. You just use the document that is in here. All we need to see is the hours and what the wage was. It will give us a list of the people that are currently assigned to you. Then we can, this is something that you guys would not see. This is where Tammy goes in and makes the reviews. The next area that we want to look at is the worksite placement. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we've got customers entered into the worksite placement as we are going. So what we're going to do is add a work experience position, and we're going to add customers. If you don't already have a work site in there, you would add the employer or the work site here. We are going to add a new one, and we're going to make this Olivia's Olive Branch. Oh, I got to spell it right. And is this employer the work site? Yes. And we're going to, the website's not required, so I'm going to skip that today. and we're going to enter in a phone number. An address is and who the primary contact would be, what their title would be, an email address, whoops, primary phone, and then we go to the next step. So all of this is pretty super simple as long as you've got the information in front of you. And again, we're moving a little bit slowly. Then we enter step 3, what are the SOC codes? So if you need to look something up, we're looking up Peacemaker. So you look up the code and you search, and I don't have any data available. So let's just look up Olive. And nothing else. So you got to have something realistic. So let's try customer service. Search. I'm going to pick customer service representative. It automatically fills the field. You can add a description, add an employment type. So this is going to be work experience. Hourly rate is going to be $13 an hour. We have 10 openings. The starting display date is going to be November 1st. Ending display date is going to be November 1st of 2017. And I'm going to finish. So then what I can do is go in here to Olivia's Olive branch and add customers. So based on the people who are in your stable of customers, you can add whoever it is and when they started and when their end date is. So maybe they're only going to work for a month. You can add that in there. Oops. Part-time and open, add it. So then you can go in. I'm only going to add that one customer right now. I can go over here and see that there was one position filled and who that person was. So it's really good. You just have to make sure that you get the work sites in place first, then add the customers. Do we have any questions about worksite placement right now? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that my phone wasn't on mute. All right, next thing that we want to talk about is the template. And we have a template that we created for you to use in the event that you want to send out anything to potential employers or anybody. You can download this. It is in the TA files in the lower left-hand corner, or it is on the the EPIC, It is on the EPIC pilot program items right here. It says EPIC template in Word. So you can download that from the EPIC Partners resource page and have it available so that you can add language about anything that you want to add about EPIC. So maybe it's a job opening, or maybe you're wanting to put out that you've got a new class starting and you want to try and gather up some people to do those reverse referrals. The next thing that we want to talk about is the Cbo Intake Options. We just completed this document last week, and I just wanted to refresh everybody's memory about this. This accompanies this flow chart, and let me find the flow chart here. So for mandatory participants, this document that I just showed you accompanies this flow chart that is sometimes hard to read. It really took me a lot of work to do it, but I understand how it can be kind of complicated. So what we did was we simplified the process. This is for you to be able to follow the directions and know what your next steps are if a customer does what they either are supposed to do or they don't do what they're supposed to do. We also have links to associated documents here, and you can take a look at this. This is in the file pod, and it is also available on our partner resource list of resources. Next thing that we want to do is talk about the rejected referrals. If you're going to reject a referral, we do have a process that needs to be followed with DHS. So this document explains that process. So from now on, what we need to do is we need to download a 2151. We need to mark it as referral rejected in Adobe Reader. You can see here on the screen where you would mark those, mark a reason why, and then go back to the Epic dashboard on the customer's profile progress page and upload the document. Choose the file to upload, make a comment in the description, and then upload. And then scroll back to the top of the page and add a case note so that, Olivia, we need to fix this form. It got out of line when we were making some changes to it. So then you need to add a case note here, select who you're going to send it to as a message and an email, and then select the DHS primary contact and the Illinois WorkNet team. Both of those people need to be selected on that case note, and then add the case note. Then the next thing that you need to do is grab out of the restricted resources on the Epic Partner page, is grab the 4334, fill in the customer's name and case number information, fill in the current work activities, and put a description of the participant engagement. Why the reason is for the staffing. This is a staffing request form. Then you scroll back to the bottom of the page, of the progress page, and you go to the changes in activity, and you upload the other document by selecting the document, choosing the file, adding the description, and then uploading. Following doing all of this paperwork and uploading it, which really only takes about 10 minutes, you follow up with DHS, who will schedule an appointment to do the staffing. It will include the DHS primary contact, the customer, and the CBO. You will determine why the referral was rejected. And then following the phone appointment, the DHS primary contact will work with Illinois WorkNet staff. In this case, it's probably going to be Olivia. And then we will determine whether or not the issue can be resolved or whether the customer actually needs to be transferred to another CBO. If the customer is reassigned, the DHS primary contact will follow the standard initial scheduling procedures that will put them to an initial appointment with the new CBO. So do we have any questions about this rejected referral process? I don't see anybody typing. All right. Next, we had a webinar a few weeks back about completing a 2151A form for DHS. This document is in the CBO files, but I just wanted to show you the completed document. It has all of the steps lined out. So this is where you can also see where you would complete the 2151A, where you're looking for a conciliation or the progress is not sufficient. Follow these directions for completing the document so that we have all of these documents properly done as we move forward. Then, last but not least, this has been a marathon webinar today. We have a process for what DHS is going to be doing if a customer is employed before they become engaged with the CBO. We've had this happen in several situations, but we wanted to document the process for this so that everybody knows what's going to happen. There are situations where a customer may get a job, but one of the reasons why they may or may not have been on food stamps in the first place is because they can't maintain a job or retain that job. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that you as the CBO know that the customer is not going to show up for the initial intake appointment, but that that customer has been assigned to you and may still need your services down the road. So if you check this, what will happen is the customer will be sought by the DHS. They will go to the customer's progress page. From there, they will add a case note, something to the example of customer will not attend orientation since they found employment. If the job does not work out and they become SNAP eligible again, they are encouraged to participate in the program if training space is available. They will select that to send as a case note to the CBO primary contact and the Illinois WorkNet team. And then they will go, they'll upload the case note. They will mark the customer as ineligible, and this status bar will turn red behind there so that you'll be able to see that it has been adapted so that we can find them on the dashboard in the right place. If the customer becomes eligible, again, the DHS staff will go in and make that change, and you will be notified in the reverse format about the customer is now eligible, and you may be getting an intake appointment from them. All right, any questions about that document? All of these documents that we just talked about are in the file pod below the chat pod, so if you want to download those, you can do that. And otherwise, you can find pretty much anything and everything you need on the EPIC Partner Resource page. Here's a list of all of the documents that are available. We have all of the videos available, all of the archived webinars that we've done, so you can go in and find just about anything that you need. We have an FAQ, we have updates available, what's happening, and then if you want to submit a success story, I know we've gotten some really great ones recently, you can submit them there. Tammy entered a note in there that on November 16th, our webinar is going to be with Brian Durham of ICCB, and he's going to be presenting on understanding, defining, and building career pathway systems. So, Tammy, we are not having a webinar on the 9th. Is that correct?
Correct. We will not have a webinar on the 9th. I think you guys covered everything that we needed to regarding the work experience uploads and the reporting, so I think we're good on that. So we will have the next webinar on the 16th.
And then we will not have one the day before Thanksgiving?
Correct. And then we will, we always send out notices. Deal send out a notice the day of the webinars, and then we'll, the weeks that we're not having it, we'll put a note up there so if somebody signs in and wonders, you know, why isn't there not a webinar, we'll let you know that the webinar is not scheduled for that day and when the next one will be. So the 16th should be a good one. I hope everybody can join on that one. Brian's done this presentation for the WIO area, and it's a very good presentation on understanding and, you know, building career pathways, which is very beneficial for us in this aspect too. And then one other thing I want to let you guys know, some of you may have been reached out to from our fiscal office. They're reviewing your DGRs and trial balances. So there is that list that we provided of who your counterpart is on Commerce's side. for doing your fiscal reviews. So you will be receiving calls if there's information they need related to your trial balance. And basically what it is a crosswalk. How do you enter the cost into the GRS and align that with your trial balance is their main questions.
All right, I see Laura's typing, so I'm going to give it just a moment.
Guys, I really appreciate all of your work out there. We're moving. We're starting to move in positive directions. I think we're getting more referrals, to people. That's going to be more of an uptake. Dee's engaging in outreach and marketing plan for this. So we're really putting a lot of effort now into just really increasing the volume.
Loris, are you talking about a person for the DRG?
Yeah, that's probably the fiscal. There is a report, and I can send it out to the group again, but I think that might be in the partner page. We put that as an upload. I don't think it's still in there. But we can send that out to the group of who your counterpart is, who my counterpart is on the fiscal side that's reviewing those.
Eric, you're in Decatur, right? Homework Hangout, Tammy is in Decatur. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
you're on my list. What we're going to do first, we're going to focus on Peoria, Freeport, Bloomington, and Decatur is our first, and then some town in Randolph County. So that I think Mantricon, that might be your area. Just so that we can focus on the voluntary areas first to try to get some excitement going on that. And then we're going to move to the mandatory areas because it's a little bit easier for the mandatory population to, have sanctions put up against them. So when we really need to work on the voluntary areas first. So.
And just to let you know, in Chicago, DHS offices is doing a little more vetting of their clients. So they're pulling lists to try and get individuals who are closer to work ready, and hopefully with a few less barriers. So we're kind of doing like stratification or triage, whatever word you want to use, approach, so that we're trying to refer people to you that are, closer to being work ready and then aren't going to have as many, obstacles to get over, to get them ready to go. So I'm hoping with what they're doing now, we'll start bringing clients to you that are a little bit better aligned with what you guys need also. Okay, is there anything else, Dee or Olivia?
I'm typing a message to Mary Richardson right now. And anybody else. So if Mary just said she didn't think she needed access to the Epic site, and now she knows that she does. So if you do need access and you do not currently have access, follow the link that I just put into the chat pod. It will help you set up an Illinois WorkNet account. And then when you're done with that, email that you need, who you're with, and what you're going to do, and then we will give you access to Epic for your organization, associating you with your organization. All right. I don't have anything else. Anybody else?
Great. Go Cubs.
Go
I'm
Cubs.
sure everybody's going to be watching the game tonight, right? I bet there's going to be a lot of people with hangovers tomorrow in Chicago. Sports. There we go. Go sports.
All right. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.